What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Crew 2. And in this video I will be going over the Proto Concept Pulse Performance. This is going to be one of multiple new Alpha GP vehicles introduced into the Crew 2, which honestly I do feel like a lot of these do actually have to be in the game and or make things a lot more interesting. I also find this pretty insane considering every Alpha GP vehicle has been buffed. Now we're also going to have new vehicles in this class as well, which I do think is pretty awesome. But nonetheless, though, customizing these cars obviously is not going to have much of anything. All you can actually do is change the rims, which honestly, who would change these awesome looking rims for something like that on an Alpha GP vehicle? And you can also do the caliper color, but if you guys do have these rims though, you obviously won't really be able to actually see that. So overall, you can basically change the color around on the vehicle a bit and or liveries. But besides that, guys, you really can't do much of anything to these new Alpha GP cars, which I would say is not going to be insanely shocking to many players because what could you actually customize on this thing? I mean, for one, basically every side piece is like carbon fiber. You can also see like crazy detail of this car as well. Like even the arms on this thing are carbon. I really do think the detail of these cars is honestly pretty incredible. We also have a really big wing on the back of this car, plus crazy exhaust tips as well. It almost looks like an instrument almost with the back of how this does look, but overall I do think a lot of players are going to like the futuristic look of these new F1 cars. I definitely can't wait to test these out against the regular Alpha GP vehicles to really see how they're going to compare to those, but nonetheless guys, let's go do an outside look of this vehicle right now and take this thing on a quick top speed test. And then moving over to the Pulse Performance here, guys, I have to admit the overall look and or design of this car is honestly pretty insane. You see the spoiler going past the tires there, and they're fully carbon fiber. I also really like the way this livery looks, how it's like green into blue, and or blue into green on the top there as well. So this is looking pretty awesome. I really do love the carbon fiber all over this thing, plus those rims really fit it. I would honestly not see a reason to change anything on this vehicle. And not only that though, and one thing I also noticed is these new F1 cars sound incredible. And then moving over to the interior view is probably going to look exactly how you would expect it to. There's not going to be a lot of like detail to like the overall looks of this, but one thing I do have to admit though, the actual steering wheel looks pretty incredible. You can see every button pretty dang clear, so I do have to give them credit when it comes to that. But if you guys are wondering, the RPM reader on the steering wheel also does not work as well. I would probably say that might annoy some players, but overall, the first-person view in this car is going to look pretty dang awesome, especially compared to the others. But besides all that, guys, let's go see what the top speed of the Pulse Performance actually is. If you guys were wondering, of course on the new racetracks, that booster's definitely going to make them insanely fast. But if you guys are racing these on the regular racetracks, you're obviously not going to be able to hit insane speeds. But running a nitrochemist set on these can definitely help tremendously when it comes to an actual top speed. I would say if I had to guess, this car's probably going to do around 300. Given that basically every single Alpha GP car in the Crew 2 has around the exact same top speed after that update. So let's see now. 319 miles per hour, guys, is honestly pretty insane. One of the biggest things I notice about this though is 320 miles per hour on one of these cars is not only going to make it insanely good for like the racing events, and with this car also going 20 miles per hour higher than basically all the other Alpha GP vehicles, at least until I test out some of the new ones as well, which I do have a feeling those are most likely going to be insanely similar to this one. It's probably going to be pretty difficult to pick some of the old Alpha GP cars. So with the Concept Pulse Performance, I also decided to jump into one of the new events with this car, and of course at the moment of making this video, there's actually only one of these races available. There's also going to be an endurance version of this as well, but I did not want to drive this car in that, so I figured I would jump into this event with this new car here, which is actually in the Summit as well. And I wanted to see how the Pulse Performance is going to do, so Overall, guys, first impressions, I'm actually really liking this car a lot, and I would actually prefer to use this over like the Mark X that I did run in the Summit. I just didn't want to use one of these new cars right away like that to see how some of the old cars do actually perform. And I would have to say it does turn out that the Pulse Performance is actually going to be a lot better performing, no pun intended, than something like the Mark X as well. So jumping into this event though, guys, one of the biggest things I can say though is if you are liking these like boosted type of events, I would definitely recommend putting your stuff in automatic. It's a lot easier. I also find these events to be a lot more fun in automatic than it is in manual, at least because you can get a lot more speed out of these events and or not have to shift. And or if you do miss shift or something, you're also going to lose speed when going through the boosters. So being in automatic on these events does seem to be the best way to do it. And the Pulse Performance is also going to be insanely fun to use as well. One of the biggest things I noticed about this car, guys, at least compared to the Mark X, is probably going to be the agility that it does have and or the way it does get around corners. And of course it's going to have a bit of a higher top speed than the Mark X as well. And obviously every single regular Alpha GP car only does about 300, so the Pulse Performance is going to be immediately faster than those. And I do think it's going to have some advantages on the racetrack, especially with the boosters. I noticed in some areas I was doing around 370 miles per hour with the booster, and that's definitely going to make this car a lot faster than some of those. Even though when I was doing the event in the Summit with the Mark X, I think I was hitting like 350, so it's probably going to be very close, and or that extra 20 miles per hour is actually going to make a big difference on this performance as well. I really can't wait to test out some of these other cars in this class though, because they're so much fun, and I really can't wait for the other events to also release as well. But overall, guys, I would definitely recommend picking this car up. You can grab this thing for around 670,000 bucks. I would probably say it's going to be well worth the money spent if you do want a new Alpha GP vehicle. I would like to know what you guys think about this car and or the new events in the comments below. And here are my settings on the Concept Pulse Performance.